या अली मदद नियामत साहबा।
जिक्र से आगाज करते हैं आज की क्लास का। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। नूर मौलाना शाह करीम हुसैनी हाजरीमा, मुश्किल कुशा मेहरबान मौला मदद फरमा। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। हस्बुनल्लाह व निअमल वकील व निअमल मौला व निअमन नसीर। या मौला मेहरबान, या मुश्किल कुशा मेहरबान मौला, मुश्किल कुशा मेहरबान, मदद फरमा, मदद फरमा। अल हय्युल क़य्यूम, मदद फरमा। या अली मदद to all friends. Without any delay, actually I would like us to start reading the book. We are studying this book which has only this beautiful article which we are studying, the Holy Quran in the Ism-i. And I would like to request whoever is the reader today to start from this, and I'll guide you when to stop. Ji, Bismillah. All right, so I'll start reading.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay. Ji, Mumtaz, speak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Quran in the Ism-i Azam, ebook, page number 4. Then the Quran was preserved in the guarded tablet, Lawh-e-Mahfuz, through the divine pen. But no sensible person can say that now the Quran did not remain in the divine pen, for it has been revealed in the guarded tablet. The wise people understand that the Quran is in the essence of the divine pen, in the sense that it has rational, intellectual existence. That is to say, the divine pen is the universal intellect, and whatever comes out of the intellect is just opposite to a material thing. That is to say, it does not leave its place like a material thing, but the same thing remains there in its original form. The pen is used as a simile for the universal intellect, in the sense that as in the intellect, nothing becomes exhausted in spite of being used, in the same way, the treasure of the qualities of writing in the pen is never exhausted, despite using it. For instance, whatever is written once by a pen can, if we like, be written 1,000 times. It is clear from this example that the Quran is not only in this world, but is also in the word kun, the divine pen and the guarded tablet.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. So we'll stop here and let me share my slides. So what we did today, we started actually a little bit of review. So we are all together that we are studying this beautiful article, and Mumtaz read 2 paragraphs. And what we had discussed last time, that when we are thinking of Quran itself as the book, the first part is through the Amre Kun, which comes from the Bari Tala, Kun, and then after the Kun, There is Kalme Ilahi, the divine pen, universal intellect. Now, today I'm going to add one more term here. Universal intellect is also known as light of Muhammad or Noor-e Muhammadi. So when the Amar came, Kun came, the divine pen, Kalme Ilahi, or we can call it universal intellect or the light of the Muhammad. How all this is happening? Remember, we are actually talking about Ism-i. These are all the miracles of Ism-i. So remember that, but we are learning the concepts of difficult terms, big terms, and we are trying to connect how does it all relate to us waking up in the morning and sitting for ibadat. The same miracle which happened to Prophet Muhammad, and he has this book, Quran, with him for us, left for us as guidance. Is this miracle still available for Mu'min Salikin? We are trying to understand that. So do keep that in the mind, right? Divine pen, Kalme Ilahi, universal intellect, Noor of Muhammad. Very interestingly, then the pen is writing. Where is it writing? In a tablet. The name of that tablet is guarded tablet or Lohe Mahfuz. Very interestingly, it is also called universal soul. And when I say universal soul, the next term or the name would be light of Ali, Maulana Ali himself. So in this, the way we are understanding that when the kun came in, the pen started to write, which is universal intellect. Where was it writing? In the guarded tablet. In reality, it was in universal soul or heart of Maula Ali actually. And what do we see physically? It is the Quran. So I would go back because it seems, Mumtaz, you have to continue to read the next paragraph.
After the explanation of the state and reality of the command pertaining to the Quran and its rational or intellectual existence, let us come to its spiritual writing, which is in the guarded tablet. In this respect, let us ponder on these two verses. God says, quote, "Nay, but it is a glorious Quran on a guarded tablet," unquote. Surah 85, ayat 21 and 22. It is obvious that the Quran is written on the guarded tablet in the writing of the spirit and spiritualism, and not in the form of any physical and material writing. In any case, the fact has become clear that the Quran is spiritually preserved in the guarded tablet forever, for it is the tablet of the universal soul wherein is preserved not only the Quran, but is preserved everything forever. If you want to ask how the Quran verses are written and preserved in the universal soul, then you should ponder on this Quranic verse, quote, "We shall show them our signs on the horizons and in their own souls until it will be manifest unto them that it is the truth." Surah 41, Ayat 53. This means that the signs of God are hidden in this spacious world and also in the human souls, which the common people cannot see. In spite of this, there has come a time wherein God will show them his signs. This shows that the signs of God are written in the exterior and interior of the world and in the essence of man himself. But God's writing is entirely different and much loftier than that of the writing of man. Further, it should be known that all the signs of God, whether they are in the horizons or in the sense of living miracle, are the Quran, for the Quran is the sign of God as well as the miracle of his power. Furthermore, We are mentioning here a simple example which will further explain this notion. For instance, when a writer writes a book, according to the traditional way of writing, it should be at least in 4 places at the same time. First, in the mind and heart of the author. Second, in the pen. Third, in the inkpot. 4, on the pages of the book. Although the form and shape of the book is different in these 4 stages, that is to say, in the mind and heart of the author, it is in the form of different types of thoughts and ideas. In the pen, it is in the form of varying movements, motions. In the inkpot, it is in the form of the unity of the dots of knowledge and wisdom. And on the pages of the book, it is extended in the form of fixed letters. Thus, if a glorious angel or an angel of glory, in the brightness of the light of God, would take a look at the mind and heart of the author before or after the completion of the book, he would find it in the form of thought, which has yet to come into existence in the external world, or which has already come. Similarly, he can describe the entire book through spiritual observation of the motion of the pen, and in the same way, he can read the details of the book in the ink and comes to know how the one dot, which has been transported every time from the inkpot to the tip of the pen, has given shape to all the letters of the book through its different manifestations.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. So beautiful chapter we are reading. Let me now share my slides. So what we are doing, we are understanding the same concept, but kind of broken it down so we can really absorb it. And I'm sure those who do the pre-reading beforehand, they'll be able to get it more. But we truly try to read it here as well. But these words are sometimes needing several readings before and after for us to really ingrain these concepts in our heart. So what we were discussing, that how this Quran manifested. And when Prophet Muhammad was doing his ibadat in Ghar Hira, Kun, the Amr, the command, Amr Kun, command of Lord came in, and the divine pen started to write where in the guarded tablet, and then we see the Quran had manifested. And Khuda Ta'ala in Quran beautifully says in 85, chapter 85, verse 21 and 22, Balu huwa Quranul Majid fi lohum mahfuz. It is a glorious Quran. Indeed, it is a glorious Quran on a guarded tablet. Now when we are able to see that the guarded tablet is at the station of the heart of Maula Ali. So Quran, when it manifested or it was revealed, it was at one point in time at 4 places. And that concept will become more clear when we go further into the next slide. But we need to understand that we are talking about all spiritual writing. This is all happening. It is all happening in spiritual world, spiritual writing. Nothing to do with the physical world. And that is why the concept we are discussing, the way it says in the chapter, it is very difficult for those ordinary people, materialistic people to understand this concept. So again, we realize that this beautiful verse 41 by 53, which very clearly tells us that there are signs. There are signs in our universe, outside and within ourselves, afaq or anfus. And if I may quote you an example, personal example, when I was in REC and I had learned about Mongolian burning our libraries. And at that time I was crying and I was like, how am I going to study? If there are no books, all our books have been burned, where am I going to study from? As a young kid, that was my impression, but I had not studied the Quran. And Quran beautifully says that his universe is actually a book. And there is a book within us as well. So in the context of Prophet Muhammad, when he was reciting his Ism-i, what was happening to him, when the kun came in, when the amar came in, he was able to read the book of universe. The first book actually, which is open to all of us, is our physical world. It's a universe. It is a book which Prophet Muhammad was reading. Then there is another book which is within us, anfus, it's within our soul. And that we also call personal world. There is a book within us as well. Remember that Gyanan verse? Atma Ram Tame Bada Gyanani. Teri Tari Vagat Kena Jani. Pir has told us very clearly that, oh my soul, oh my Atma, you are full of knowledge. But nobody has honored you, valued you the way we ought to value. We ignore our soul, right? So here what we are learning in this verse 41 by 53, that the Lord has left his signs outside in the world and within our being. Very interestingly, how are we connecting this to our Ism-i? And very beautifully you will realize that it is all due to the Ism-i. That's the beauty. In this whole spacious world, there are his signs. And if I may give you an example of Pir Nāṣir Khusro, if you were to pick up his book, Wajh-e-Din, and start reading about Hudud-e-Din, you will be so shocked the way he talks about Hudud in terms of season, the days in the week, months in the year. Everything has a meaning. Hours in a day, 12 hours of day and night, everything has a meaning. But for us, it is a physical calendar, physical clock looking at the time, it is passing by. But everything which we see in terms of our time has a batni meaning as well. And of course, when we read the books of our Buzurgwar-e-Din, then only we will come to know. So when I said in the beginning that ordinary people don't know these things. Why they do not know? Because they don't have the knowledge. For them, it is the way the world, everybody's living in the world, the way animals are living in this world, and we are living as well. There is no distinction between rational soul as a man, as a human, with the animal soul, because we do not have that knowledge to understand all this. So again, to summarize why this verse is so important to understand, that this universe is a book in itself. Within our personal world, there is another book as well. And then we have Qur'an Sharif, another book. All these are connected to each other. There are signs for mu'minins who are willing to see those signs. So further it says, it should be known that the signs of God, whether they are in the horizons or in the sense of a living miracle. Now here, living miracle is who? It is the personality of Imam. Imam is living miracle. He is the Nur of Allah, Nur-e-Mujassam. All what we are studying actually is Quran. Remember, if I were to go back to this slide, when I was saying that when the Quran was revealed or written by a divine pen, or it was universal intellect, or Nur-e-Muhammadi, where was it being written? In the heart of Maula Ali. The guarded tablet is actually within Maula Ali. So when we come here and we read that there are signs in the universe and in the sense of a living miracle, there are signs within the horizon and within ourselves, but all they are in the sense of a living miracle. All are Quran. Meaning, Hazrat Imam is also Quran, and we call him speaking book, Bolta Quran. This book is in universe, is within ourselves. Imam is that speaking book, and we also have the physical book. They all are connected. How? Through Ism-i Azam. Through Ism-i Azam. I have example of sun here in our physical world, right? Without the sun, I have always given this example because Allāmah Sahib uses this example a lot. Pir Nāṣir Khusro uses it, that without the sun, our planet would not survive. Our planet would not thrive. We would not have food or water. It is all due to sun that we even have electricity. Everything is due to sun. Similarly, in the universe, spiritual universe, the kingdom is of Imam. It is all due to Imam. If Imam were not to be here, the universe will not last, it will collapse. The physical universe will collapse. However, when the personality of the Imam is present, he gives us a link, a Ism-i, to connect to him. He is a living miracle, but then there are other miracles as well. Universe is miracle itself. But what do we see? Material, physical world. But for Prophet Muhammad, it became a book, and he was reading that book. Very interestingly, this chapter actually gives us this understanding through example of an author. Let's say, if somebody is writing a book, but a writer will have an idea in his mind. So in one way, the book is here. It's not yet written, but the idea or the thought, it is alive in the thought of the author. When he takes the pen, then it starts writing, meaning the pen itself, and it is writing with the help of the ink. The pen has the book within it, the ink has a book within it, and then when it is written on the book, it has the book itself, the physical book. Let's look at this picture, which makes it easier for us to follow this example, which we are trying to understand about the spiritual world and spiritual writing. Again, the only way for us to understand all these concepts are by using physical examples, right? So physically, when we take an example of an author, he's thinking or she's thinking, there is an idea, it's all within the thoughts. But then pen is being picked up, dipped in the ink. So the motion of the pen itself is telling us that there's a book coming out, because there is a transpiration of the thought to this pen, and then due to the ink, it is writing. So now we are able to see these shapes or letters or alphabets in the page as well. In other words, what we are saying, the book does exist in all these 4 places. We would not see these letters if the ink would not know what is being written. If the pen was not guiding the ink, how to be drawing that color on the page. And the motion would not happen if there was no thought. So I hope that you're able to connect it now, that it is all connected. For us, for physical people, they will only see the book on the pages. That is it. But in reality, that is not the truth. The book exists at all these places. However, some only see, majority only see this physical book. All other books, they may not see it. Now look at this example. When we are looking at, those Mu'min Salikin, let's start with the example of Prophet Muhammad. He was the Mu'min Salik. He reached to Mi'raj, right? But then we can also take the same example and apply to our peers. Allāmah Sahib in front of us. All our Buzurgwar-e-Deen, including our Natiks and Paigambars, our peers, Awliya, when we look through their spiritual journey, in reality, we see the same situation. And what is that? Through the Ism-i, there is a thought, meaning in their batin, they are able to see the words of the Lord. When the inspiration came, when the Wahi was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, did anybody see the Wahi outside? No. Where was it revealed? It was revealed in his intellect, right? And we do know that this miracle, because Natik and Asas are connected, because Natik brings the Tanzil and Asas does do the Tawil. So whatever was in the mind, in the thoughts of the Prophet Muhammad, whatever was revealed, it was revealed in the heart of Maula Ali at the same time, who was the guarded tablet. So Kun came in, then there's a divine pen, and then there is a tablet. We don't see it physically at all. What we see the Quran. How did all this manifested? Due to the Ism-i, due to the pure Farman Bardari and pure heart and mind. Focus ibadat, the way Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah says, meaning all what we ought to be following when we are doing our ibadat, all these miracles, Batni miracles will start happening to a Mu'min Salih. Let's take the example of our Pir Sadruddin. When he wrote this Ginan, our Pirs have written this Ginan, right? Atma Aram Tame Bada Ginan. How did Pir Sadruddin came to know that there is a knowledge in the Atma? What had happened to him? How did he come to that stage? It was simply due to the Ism-i Azam. Everything starts through Ism-i Azam. Batni eyes, ears opened up. When the Wahi is revealed, when the thoughts are coming, when we are for Prophet or Natik, we call it Wahi. This word Wahi is only used for our Natikan, nobody else, right? So for Prophet Muhammad, Wahi was revealed, and at the same time, this was written in the heart of the Mawla Ali. And when the Quran was written, and we do know the Quran, when we pick up our Quran, we will see Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And very interestingly, Mawla Ali says that the first dot, the ba of the Bismillah, is him. Now, how these miracles are happening? Look at this angel there. When we are taking this example of, let's say, even Prophet Muhammad, right? Because it's easier to connect all the points with Prophet Muhammad's example for us. For all the friends who are present here, it is easier to connect this example. When the Wahi came to Prophet's mind, the angel who is there is able to see his thoughts, his mind. The angel is able to see how the divine pen is writing on the guarded tablet. What was written on the guarded tablet, everything is being seen by the glorious angel, Jalali angels. Meaning, remember, we have also talked about that every zikr, whatever zikr we do, even our Ism-i Azam, because it's a zikr, every type of remembrance has its own assigned angel. When we activate those angels, because there are more than one angel, it is not just one angel, because every name of the God has its own assigned angels. These angels, when we are progressing, when we are truly becoming Farman Bardar of the Imam, they can see our progress, and they, with the mercy of Imam, can help us progress. But it's a journey. When we invoke them, then it happens. Without the hard work, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for everybody. Only those who are seeking and are working on this desire that to come close to the nur of the Imam, then only this can happen. So very beautifully, there are always these angels are there present to help Mu'min Salikin. Those Mu'minin who are walking on the path of becoming staunch Mu'minin, Pakka Farman Bardar, then they can realize these miracles. Remember, in front we have example of Prophet Muhammad, but in reality, this is possible for any and every Mu'min Salih when we follow and become complete with conviction, Farman Bardar. So we understand here that the example of the, kun coming on, where in the mind, in the thoughts, in the intellect, divine pen writing it on the guarded tablet, and then physically seeing the book. All is being seen by the angel. In one way, we can say all are different types of books, but only seen by the angels. We can only see this physical book, but there are books at the other levels as well. All due to the majiza of Ism-i Azam. Now, very interestingly, it talks about the preservation of the book. So we need to read further now to be able to stay connected to the book as well. Ji Mumtaz. We read this, right? Here.
Yes, in modern, yeah. In modern times, in addition to the above mentioned 4 kinds of writings, There are other devices through which it can further be proved that the book does not exist only in physical writing, but there are other forms too, in some of which it speaks and in some where it is silent. For example, in devices such as the gramophone, the recorded disc can be made to speak if so desired. Otherwise, it is silent, and thus the book, in a way, is also preserved in it. Further, if we think about the telephone, wireless, radio, then it is found that they all serve the purpose of a book. A tape recorder, too, can be used as a book. The cinema and television are the best examples of the living book of spiritualism, and microfilm and fiche film are the best examples of the silent book. But all these things, in spite of being wondrous and marvelous, are physical, material, and worldly, and are the product of the attempts of immature and imperfect man, which, considering the perfect power of God, are just not. Now, in spite of this explanation, are we going to consider the pen of power, Kalme-Kudrat, and the guarded tablet, Lohe-Mahfuz, devoid of the higher qualities of the soul and intellect like the human manufacturings? Or are we going to consider them, that is, the pen and the tablet, as two great angels which are regarded as the lights of universal intellect and universal soul, and Muhammad and Ali? In fact, the pen of power or the divine pen is the light of Muhammad or the Muhammadan light, and the guarded tablet is the light of Ali. There is no doubt that the above-mentioned material examples can help in acquiring the knowledge of certitude regarding the pen, the tablet, and the spirit and spiritualism of the Quran, but we have to keep the difference between the reality of the intellect and the soul and the reality of matter in mind. They are as part as the heaven and the earth. Nonetheless, this is the only way to go from exoteric Zahir to the esoteric Batin, and to understand a higher through a lower. Thus, in order to understand the spiritual and luminous state, Ruhaniyat or Nuraniyat, we should proceed from the knowledge of certitude, Ilm al-Yaqeen, to the vision of certitude, Ainul Yaqeen, where all the realities can be perceived directly. This type of observation and recognition of the intellectual and spiritual realities is called marifat, recognition, which also includes the marifat of all the stages of the Quran. Some people think that it is only God's recognition which is called marifat. If we accepted this, then it would imply that the observation and recognition of pre-eternity, azal, post-eternity, abad, space, spacelessness, time, timelessness, the pen, the tablet, soul, paradise, hell, and the annihilation of the cosmos and existence is more difficult than that of God. This is a misconception, and the true concept of marifat is, as we have mentioned, observation and recognition of the intellectual and spiritual realities through the eye of certitude, Ainul Yaqeen.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Beautiful reading. So we are now talking about preservation of the book. Very interestingly, that we understand in the physical world, we have example of, see, remember there are example of these books in our universe. And very interestingly, Allāmah Sahib gives us the book example of, audio books, digital books are available. Physically, we don't see the book, but they're preserved in CD or, audio books. We don't see the book physically. Then there are silent books and speaking books, right? Some books, the way we see like tape recorder and all the audio player, they are speaking books. They may not be like, we do not see the written words, but they are, we can listen to it. And then Allāmah Sahib also talks about living books. For example, TV or, cinema. All these are living books in the sense that we see, things moving as if they are real. But in reality, we do know it is not real, but it is TV and, video or digital seeing things. All these are different examples of how the books are preserved in the physical world. And if you were to go back, 20, 30, 40 years back, we did not have all this technology. So these are beautiful technological progress which we see in the physical world. Allāmah Sahib says, marvelous and wondrous, ajib wa garib. All these beautiful technological development has happened. But still, it is made or done by immature and imperfect man. The book we are talking about, the book which we are talking about, which is preserved in spirituality, it is by God. Now, if we are so impressed by today's technology, the way we are able to keep, things in our OneDrive or Google Drive or, whatever technological example, today being in Zoom and talking to each other, being able to see each other, looking at the book, listening also, all these are beautiful, progress of technological, physical world. So what? That's what Allāmah Sahib is saying. If you're impressed, this is nothing. Do not be impressed because it is made by imperfect and immature man. Here, what we are talking about is the divine book, which is written by Qalam-e-Qudrat, the power of pen, pen of power, Qalam-e-Qudrat. When that pen writes on Lawh-e-Mahfuz, on the guarded tablet, what kind of writing that would be? All the spirituality, Nuraniyat, Ruhaniyat, everything will be in that book. It will have preserved all the Ruhaniyat and Nuraniyat. And today, when we are gathered here, we all are seeking that book. But can you imagine that the journey starts by reading this book? By waking up for ibadat, but also reading this book. I hope that we all have come to that conclusion by listening to what Mumtaz just read. Without this knowledge, we may say Yali, 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 but we may not understand what Yali wants to give it to us. So very important, very interesting that it all starts physically by reading physical book, by learning these terms. We have realized when the Qalam-e-Qudrat writes, it is writing on the guarded tablet. The pen, the divine pen is writing on the guarded tablet. In reality, these are both great angels. When we said Prophet Muhammad and Maula Ali, they are Natik and Asas, but they can also be called great angels. In other words, when we say universal intellect, universal soul, they are great angels. In fact, it is complete office as well, meaning that different personalities in different times we see in this office, right? All this, what we are talking about, it exists in the spiritual world. But we are not able to see it. Why? Because we are very impressed by the physical books and physical technology, and we are not able to enter into our own personal world to be able to realize that there is an existence of divine pen, there is an existence of light of Muhammad, Nur-e-Muhammadi, and the guarded tablet, Nur of Maula Ali, Lawh-e-Mahfuz. All this is available for us. And then we also have realized that there is no doubt. We have come to that conclusion that there is a pen, there is a tablet, and there is this Quran which is written in Ruhaniyat and Nuraniyat. These two angels are there who are doing all these work. And when we are talking about Prophet Muhammad, if we were to go back, this happened in the time of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam too. Then if you want to come forward 600 years ago, it happened to Pir Sadruddin as well. Meaning that this Majiza continues to repeat for Paigambar, his wali, his awliyas, his devoted righteous mu'minins. Is this Majiza available for us as well? 100%. That is what we are learning and studying about. Maulana Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah has told us that if you want to become Peer or Paigambar, you can become so. So all this learning which we are taking, it is about Prophet Muhammad, but it is so connected to us and our soul and our Ism-i Azam. Because it is through Ism-i Azam that the Prophet had elevated himself to that higher stage. All we want to learn starts physically. Zahir takes us to the batin, but the journey has to begin into the Zahiri thing so we can understand the higher concept. So if we want to do that, what do we need? We need knowledge of certitude, ilmul yaqeen. Without knowledge, one cannot progress. Everybody wants a shortcut. Everybody wants to climb up immediately up the ladder. But the journey is step by step. You know, the word I wrote is amal, because amal ki pakizgi, we may talk about it, but have you understood that all the sinning which we do physically has become dark, black, heavy burden on our soul. Our soul is kind of, burdened by the sin. It's not light, it cannot fly. Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah actually tells us in his Baitul Kyal Farman that bring your soul out so it can fly. If we all are seekers of Noor, we want Ruhaniyat, then it all starts physically transforming ourselves, seeking this knowledge to understand how this miracle can happen to us. When it happens, are we able to recognize it? So, all the Ruhaniyat and Nuraniyat is within, or the first step is in the knowledge. By even, studying the knowledge of certitude, you are able to experience the Noor in your heart. We may not be able to express it with our words, but we do feel it too. But can you imagine, with Ism-i Azam, we are able to have that ability to express as well, to write as well. Why can't it happen? Maula's mercy is with everybody and anybody, right? But what we are learning here, that when we are having this knowledge of certitude, what we are realizing, that this book which was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, revealed in the heart of Maula Ali, how is it being preserved? Is the physical Quran, is that book, meaning that it came out and now it's only in the physical book? Now this physical book is sometimes, we have heard people burn it. Sometimes they made changes, we hear about so many things. So this book has been touched by everybody. Those who do not believe in Imam or Prophet, they also print and touch it. Meaning, is that Quran we are talking about? The physical words? Everybody, all the Sunnis do read those words. When they read it, did they recognize the Imam? Even when we read it, can we recognize the Imam? The physical book is not it. Why? Because it is preserved. Where? In the kun, in the divine pen, in the guarded tablet, as well as we see it physically. So if we want to climb the ladder up, first we need to start the studying of the book with Ism-i Azam. Anyone who enters in the Quran with the name of the Imam, desiring to understand the tawilat which are hidden in the Quran, the Noor will help them to get to recognition. Because in the knowledge of certitude, we start climbing up the ladder. When we climb up the ladder, what are we doing? We are coming close to the marifat. Whose marifat? Marifat of the God. And the way we have always understood that we have to have recognition of Imam, because Imam is the Noor of Allah. So it is the recognition of Imam that will help us recognize the Lord as well. Now, when we talk about that, and if we were to say, but there are terms like pre-eternity or post-eternity, azal, abad, space, spacelessness, time, timelessness, or even the pen or the guarded tablet. If we were to separate these things and say we need marifat, then we are saying This recognition is difficult than the marifat of God, because we are focusing on that. In other words, what we are saying, this is wrong. This is a misconception. All these terms are included in the marifat of Imam. Meaning, in other words, what I'm saying, to make it very, very simple, all the marifat are included in the recitation of the Ism-i Azam. When a Mu'min Salik does do bandagi with knowledge, and the way they have to be farman bardar, they are able to progress to see this mushahidat, this marifat, to get it in their own soul and intellect. This path is for every Mu'min Salik. All this preserved knowledge in the book, Atma Ram Tame Bada Ginani. How did Pir come to the recognition of it? When he had opened up his Batni eyes. The journey begins at the Ilmul Yaqeen, but it doesn't stop there. After Ilmul Yaqeen, one has to enter into Ainul Yaqeen. So let me go further and see. Oh, it is about language of Quran. So let's have Mumtaz reading for us about the language of Quran, and then we can talk about that as well. Because all this is related to our journey. Ji Mumtaz.
Regarding the Quran, it is further said in the Quran, quote, "We have made it a Quran in Arabic, and you may be able to understand. And verily, it is in the mother of the book, with us high and full of wisdom." Unquote. In other words, this means that where the Quran is in the presence of God, there is in a more subliminal form and full of wisdom. That is to say, there it is in the spiritual writing and in the language of God, which is the language of wisdom. It is living and speaking. But on the soil where it is revealed, there it is in the Arabic language. For from the beginning it has been a law of God that He sent every messenger in the language of His people. Surah 14, Ayat 4. Thus, during the time of the Prophet, the Arab Muslims had the central position of the Muslim community. Since all the Muslims are one and the same community, therefore Arabic is regarded as the language of the Muslim community. The Prophet has said about al-Kitāb, the mother of the book, that it is in the exoteric sense Surah al-Fatiha, the opening chapter, and that it is in the esoteric sense Imam Ali. These are two positions of the mother of the book in their respective sense. But there the question arises that the words which the Surah al-Fatiha contains are the only words which this chapter contains. But nonetheless, the rest of the Quran is still extended over hundreds of pages. How then is it possible to conceive that the entire Quran is contained in the Surah al-Fatiha? The answer to this question is that just as a seed contains within itself potentially a tree, that is, just as a seed has the capacity of producing a tree, so in the same sense, the Surah al-Fatiha contains the entire Quran.
Subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. All right. So now we come to the language of Quran. I would like to clarify one thing, when we are talking about language of Quran, we immediately think of Arabic, which is very difficult, and we do not know Arabic, right? We are still learning and desiring to learn, but we don't know Arabic. When a Mu'min Salik, let's say a Gujarati speaking or Urdu speaking, when they start walking on this path, they are of age to receive Ism-i Azam. And when they come to this knowledge journey, all this is very difficult. One has to may feel overwhelmed that if I have to study Quran, do I need to learn Arabic language? When Imam will talk to me, the way when the Prophet had this, Jibril visited him, it was all in Arabic. How will it be for us? So the first important thing is that when we are mu'minin and we start walking on the path, we become salikin. And the next term, we can say abidin. Abid is the one who does do ibadat. And then the important term is arif. Arif is the one who has the marifat. And that actually is from knowledge. Ilmul yaqeen is received through our physical senses. But when we elevate ourselves in our batin, that is ainul yaqeen, which is through our batni senses. And very beautifully what it says, that for Prophet, it happened in Arabic. But for a Gujarati speaking, if Imam will talk to him, it will be in Gujarati. Somebody speaks Sindhi or Kutchi, Imam will be talking to them in their language. And we have had so many instances where, Momini went to Mehmani and Imam spoke to them in their language. If physically Imam is doing this miracle, talking to us in our own language, can he not do this miracle in our batin? Everything is possible for him. He is Qadir Mutallaq, right? So here in this context, it is very important for us to realize that what does Quran say? So Quran says we have made it a Quran in Arabic that you may be able to understand. And indeed it is in the mother of the book. With us, high and full of wisdom. Very, very interesting the way it says that it is with us high and full of wisdom. Inna ja'alna Qur'anan Arabiyan la'allakum ta'aqilun. Wa innahu fil al-Kitāb ladunya la'aliyyun hakim. See how we are struggling to learn and to read Arabic? But when we do work hard, when we attempt to learn and read, he does help. The point I'm trying to make is that we work hard to learn. Even the physical Quran, the words of Quran, which are Arabic, when we don't know Arabic, we will read the translation or transliteration. But when we read the Tanzil, it inspires us to learn the Tawili meaning too. And when we want to learn the Tawil, we will read the books. This miracle, Quran, it's a miracle. I hope you know that. Remember that Quran is a miracle. It is a miracle of Prophet Muhammad. When he completed his Ismaili, he started to receive these words from the Lord, and Jibril brought it for him. So this physical book became the Quran. And very interestingly, I have put for you one of the important lessons which we all need to have is this 2x2, which says, Zalik al-Kitāb la rayba fi huddal al-muttaqin. So Surah Fatiha is the first part and we'll talk about it. But before that, I want to focus in Arabic, in the language, because it matters that we understand all what matters for us to understand when we are walking on this path. This is the Quranic verse and this is the transliteration. And if you were to look at the translation, look at this one, 2x2. And these are different Arabic scholars, professors and educated and high-fi peoples who know Arabic. They have command on the language. Now look at their translation, and we are studying the same words, chapter 2, verse 2, which says, Zalik al-Kitāb la rayba fi. So they are translating is, this is the book. Which book? Meaning the physical book of Quran. Shahi International. Pictol says, this is the scripture. Yusuf Ali says, this is the book. Interestingly, Yusuf Ali is Shia. Shakir, who is Sunni, he says this book. Muhammad Sarwar, Sunni, says this book. Mohsin Khan, Sunni, this is the book. Arbari, who is not Sunni, not Shia, but a scholar of Arabic, he says, that is the book. Zalik al-Kitaba, that is the book. And if you were to simply put it in the Google and ask what does Zalika means, it means that. The question is, if Zalika means that, why did this Arabic scholars, why did they translate it as this and one translated as that? Did they not know how to Google the way we can Google today? today. You know, Quran book has been written and translated for so many years, right? It has been happening. But very interestingly, due to the miracles of Imam in today's time and era, we can read and study things online and can be better equipped with knowledge than these scholars. All these scholars, they're using their own partial intellect and neglecting the word zalika and translating Zalik al-Kitāb as this is the book. Because for them, where is that book? Show me that book, because that is that book. This is this book. So Quran, this is the book. But Arbery, who was, you know, unbiased, I would say, because he's not Shia, not Sunni, doesn't know anything. He's just translating the Arabic language. He says that is the book. The question I am trying to ask here for us, when we are studying the language of Quran, which is Arabic, we cannot even rely on the translation. Why? Because all these scholars are using their own partial intellect to translate the Quran. We need Ismaili author, Ismaili scholar to be teaching us and telling us what is in the Arabic and how should it be translated. Now, if we are talking about the translation, now come to the Ta'wil. If they are still struggling to understand the translation of the Quran, which was revealed 1400 years ago, what about the Ta'wil? We do know that there are so many sects in Islam because they cannot agree on one thing. They cannot agree on one thing. And this is the very important thing. This is the book because they do not know that is the book. And that is the book is being referred to the Imam, because Imam is that book. That guarded tablet which was written in the heart of Maula Ali, that Maula Ali's name today is Shakari. So that is the book. All this understanding, all this exercising of our brain is needed to make us wake up intellectually. So we can absorb this knowledge and learn this knowledge to continue to elevate in spirituality. I'm going to repeat, we need this intellectual stimulation to help us to continue to elevate in spirituality. All what we are doing, it is to help us to elevate in spirituality. We need to understand that. So Khuda Ta'ala very clearly says that he has sent this Quran in Arabic so you may be able to understand. Meaning, it doesn't matter the language. Look at this next verse, 14 by 14. He speaks in the language of his folks. Prophet Muhammad, in his time, he was in Arab country. The language was Arabic. So it became, the Quran came into Arabic language. But Khuda Ta'ala knows all the languages. Imam, who is Nur-e Mujassam, if we have heard of some stories that Imam speaks in different languages, can he not talk to us in our batin in our own language? We do not need to learn Arabic. But do we need to study Arabic? Yes. Why? To stimulate our brain. Because our brain has been focusing on the material world. We have to use our time to study these books so our mind thinks more about this direction. Otherwise, the world is very tempting. It will continue to keep us going into that direction. So, we are going to the next part. I'm just going to cover this and then we'll end and we'll have to review this again. Which we did, she did read about the Surah Fatiha. Yes, so this is about Surah Fatiha. We have heard this hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, right? That the whole Quran is actually within Surah Fatiha. The essence of the whole Quran, thick, big book. The essence is in these 7 verses of Surah Fatiha. And it is being said, there's another hadith, Prophet says, if you say this chapter, Surah Fatiha, 3 times a day, it is as if you have read the whole Quran. And what do we do in our dua? 3 times dua, we say Surah Fatiha. So in other words, you know, Imam is so merciful that he has left this guidance for us. That ask this question, why have I put Surah Fatiha in Quran? Why was it important for us to say Surah Fatiha morning, evening, and you know, Sanjit is Somriji, all 3 dua? Why did we have to say this Surah Fatiha? There is a reason that this Surah Fatiha is so important. It is the mother of the book, and all what is in the physical book, hundreds of pages, the essence is within this chapter. Question is, have we understood this chapter? In other hadith, in the book of healing, we had read that those who want shifa, those who want healing, you have to read this chapter 40 times in a day. We had studied Surah Fatiha, actually in book of healing, in that book study, and it says in that book that if you want healing, meaning when we realize that though we've been doing ibadat, but there is no amal ki pakizgi, we are still sinning, or we are lacking in the knowledge because our heart, our mind is so much into physical, worldly things and worldly knowledge. We are ill. That is the conclusion. We are ill. How are we ill? I'm not physically ill, but spiritually, intellectually, I am ill because my mind, my intellect is only, my heart is only towards the worldly things. The hukum is, the guidance is, recite this chapter 40 times to seek healing. Healing for what? So we can enter into the Quran to understand the essence. Maula Ali has said that when this Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, when we read, the first dot under the Bismillah is him. When we enter with the name of Maula Ali in the Quran, studying the Tawili meaning of the Quran, the whole essence, the Tawil becomes clear for us. Now, the question is that how the essence of the whole Quran, which is on hundreds of the pages, in just one page or half a page, then there is an example of a seed and the tree. When we look at the seed, it is only a seed. We don't see the tree. But potentially the seed carries the whole tree within it. But then there is a journey for the seed to go through. Journey of the soul that we as Mu'mineen, trying and desiring to become Arifin, we are those seeds. Potentially, all the Ginan is within us. But that seed has to go through so many processes to become the tree. The seed has to be buried in the soil. And to the extent that the soil will eat away the seed, meaning the seed will annihilate itself in the soil. It will become part of the soil. What does that mean? Hazimam says it very clearly in every farman. Be humble. Learn this principle of annihilation, becoming humble. Fana ourselves in the higher rank in order to go to the higher level. The seed, fana itself in the soil. Seed itself is not even at the level of the soil. When it merges with the soil, then it has this ability, the capability for the plant to grow. And when the plant continues to grow, when the conditions are met, water is coming, sunlight is coming, when it is given in the right temperature, right time, right ways, then there's a plant. And finally, there will be a tree which will have fruit in it. And that fruit will again have a seed in it. Meaning what we are understanding here, that when we take this example of Surah Fatiha, the whole Quran is within this chapter. We see this with the understanding of seed potentially having the whole tree within it. If we understand at the level of knowledge who the Imam is, meaning that just the dot, nothing else, just the dot. But in order for us who are imperfect, have partial intellect, needy intellect, we have to study. We need this knowledge, ilmul yaqeen, knowledge of certitude. To be able to open up the batni eyes, how will it happen? When we will annihilate ourselves step by step. How? First step is to merge ourselves within knowledge, to seek that knowledge, to become regular in our ibadat bandagi, not be dozing off or not be thinking of other things. Thinking becomes sharper, stronger, focused when we study these talimat. This is the talim of the Imam. When we seek the talim of the Imam, our intellect, which is kind of rested, will become sharper. And that sharpness will help us focus in our bandagi. And what we'll realize that this will continue to grow. It takes time, years of practice and learning, but potentially a seed in itself is a whole tree. So I won't go into that, but I just want you to go through this conclusion that when we are reading this chapter, Quran in Ismaili, we are realizing actually wonders and marvels of Ismaili itself. What did Ismaili do for Prophet Muhammad? What does it mean at ilmul yaqeen level? In the light of the above mentioned realities and recognition which we have studied, the divine speech, which is the Quran, it is not limited in the physical book. It has many forms. And what are those forms? First is Amri Kafiyat, meaning in the word kun. When the Amar comes, the state of command of be, what happens? It becomes. In the Nuraniyat and the Ruhaniyat, the divine pen starts writing. Angel, a great angel comes. And then what happens? That pen writes in the guarded tablet, Lohe Mahfuz, which is universal soul, another angel. Imam is also an angel. So what we are realizing that Quran actually is the reward of Ismaili. For Prophet, Quran is the reward of Ismaili. What had happened to him? He had this batini mushahidat, and he had the marifat. All was happening to him in anul yaqeen. And through anul yaqeen, he reached to haqqul yaqeen. And that is why the beautiful saying, Quran tamam wasfe kamale Muhammad ast. All what we see in the Quran, actually, it is the beauty of the light of Muhammad. It is all the praises of Prophet Muhammad. How did he reach there? Through Ismaili. And that is what we have. If we needed that magic wand, right? We have that. Have we learned how to use it? Meaning, have we had the knowledge? Have we had the knowledge to learn how to use this? Until we don't use that knowledge, we will not be able to actualize our Ismaili. So I hope it was a beautiful journey. Things are becoming more and more clear. And the further we go in the chapter, it is amazing chapter. So thank you, friends, for being here and listening. If you have any questions or comment,
Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. It is beautiful to, the analogy is amazing to understand that, you know, how TV, how tape recorder, how CDs, every single thing has book. You know, the question comes to mind is we say as a Momin Salik, we have, you know, Atma Ramta mein Bada Ginani. So we're saying that the soul already is aware of all of these pearls of knowledge. And then, you know, Imam with his mercy bestows the Isme Azam. So the book actually is in a Momin Salik. It's not actualized because of the veil in between. But then we say that Imam is the book himself. And then we say, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ نَسَيْنَاهُ فِي إِمَامٍ مُبِينٍ. So we have the book, Imam has the book. How do we comprehend this all and put it into simple words?
beautifully said. So yes, there are many forms of the book. There are many forms of the book. And for us, right now, it's a physical book, Quran. So for us, it's a journey to begin with the knowledge. But when one reaches at the stage of anul yaqeen, through the observations and recognition they have in their batin, they are able to see the other forms of the book as well. All is dependent on that journey which we have to take. But in reality, what you just said, that we hear all these, you know, different ways of talking about that. Wakulla Shaina Saina of Imam, everything is within the Imam. Then what are we talking about here? In other words, there are so many ways of saying the same reality. And again, when we take different examples, like we took the example of Prophet Muhammad, when we do that, we are saying it in a very different way. But in reality, you know, Quran is Furqan. It is full of hikmat. It is all wisdom. If someone is able to understand the Ginans are full of hikmat, full of knowledge. But that knowledge, that understanding one cannot have if they have not studied the knowledge itself. By just reciting the Ginans, the understanding will not come. For me personally, I've told my friends that it was study of the Quran that had helped me understand the ginans and the farmans. So it is very, very interesting that how when we are walking on the path of seeking knowledge, all the knowledge comes together, helps us to realize and learn. And in our batin, then we are able to see different forms of the book. There are different angels, different forms. All this is for us to understand, to realize, become arif of it at the level of knowledge, and then being able to see it in our batin as well. Ji.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Friends, the chat is open. If you have any questions, any comments, any reflections, you can come forward.
Niamat Saiba,
Ji.
you know the pen and the tablet? Can I say it's Pir and Shah?
You can, why not?
Muhammad and Ali?
Yes. So Prophet Muhammad was Pir as well. He was the Pir of Maulana Abu Talib. The Imam for Prophet Muhammad was Maulana Abu Talib, who gave him Ism-i. So he was the Pir of Maulana Abu Talib. So yes, he was, you can call him Pir as well. And Shah of that time was Maulana Abu Talib. Due to the concept we understand, Nurun Allah Nur, through the chain of the light of Imamat, the next Imam is Maula Ali, who is with Prophet Muhammad as Asas Imam. Prophet started his journey just like us. Through Ism-i, he became first Pir of Maulana Abu Talib. And then with his Ism-i, his journey, he completed and he continued to go further. He became a Natik. And Natik is never, he does not come alone. He always comes with his Asas. Natik always comes with the Asas, meaning Natik brings the Tanzil, the way we see the book, Quran, in its form, physical book. And the Tawil was brought by Maula Ali. And that is why we understood that when the divine pen was writing, it was writing on the guided tablet, meaning in the heart of Maula Ali. And that is how Maula Ali knew all the Tawili meaning of the Quranic revelation on the Prophet Muhammad. So yes, it is spiritual as well.
And so the Farman, when Maula Bapa says, I physically today I may be here, tomorrow I may not be here, but Batuni matters. And I want this Noor, what we are talking about, Ismaili Azam today, was I want this link to be closer and closer to me, right?
Yes, yes.
I have another question where, can you explain more when you said this knowledge has to be actualized? Can you go a little deeper in this one?
So, I do know that you like ginans, right? There are so many ginans in which Pir have told us that we have to use our senses, right? All the physical senses. When we seek knowledge, what are we doing? We are using all our physical senses, right? Physically, we are learning this knowledge because from Zahir to journey to the Batin occurs, right? So when we seek knowledge through our physical senses and we are doing our zikr, ibadat, girya-uzari, farman bardari, taqwa, all that, what happens? Then Batni senses open up. But if somebody does not invest time or dedicate time to learn this knowledge, they do not nourish their intellect. That is why it becomes difficult for them to open up their Batni senses. So knowledge is very important for us. First, we need ilmul yaqeen. And then comes the ainul yaqeen. Yasmin?
So we are on this track right now.
We are on the track. Yes, we have to stay consistent. Remember, when we went to school, there was a classwork, right? Then there was a homework as well. So the emphasis here is that this is just a very limited time, hour or so. Homework needs to be done. Pre-reading, post-reading, reflection, zikr, ibadat, giryazari, all that has to be done. Never undermine the homework. Okay?
Thank you.
It's not enough to just listen and not read or reflect. Otherwise, we are doing half the task. It becomes then feel good when I'm in the class and that is it. After that, I forget, I sleep. No, I have to come back, read and reflect and realize what was being said.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Friends, if you have any other questions, any comments, you can come forward.
So I like what Zebi is saying, that in context of Yasmin's question, that she saw a different perspective, that we learned that it is not about Arabic as per se, it is about the knowledge. So thank you for sharing this, Zebi. This is beautiful what you've shared.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Any other last comments or any other reflections, if anybody would like to share? I think
In one way, it is so simple. In another way, it makes you think and reflect, and you see within yourself that what you need to do. And it's a good thing when there's a silence. In a way, it's a good thing that everybody's reflecting. And it is very important to reflect and think. But then read and come with the questions so we can discuss more too, right?
Inshallah, inshallah. I just wanted to let friends know that inshallah we'll have Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Kalam Imam Mubin session. See you all. Thank you, Niamat Saba, for giving us time and knowledge. Shukr, alhamdulillah. Thank you, friends. Ya Ali Madad, Ya Ali Madad.
Thank you. Yali Madad. Yali Madad.
Yali madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Yali Madad.
Thank
Yali
you.
Madad. Shukran. Shukran.
يعلي مداد
يعلي مداد
Yali Madad.
يعلي مداد
Yali Madad. Yali Madad.
Yali Madad,
Ya Ali Madad,
amazing lecture.
Ya Ali Madad.